Why would he be taking money as a hired killer?
When it comes to the future of the DC Universe, one of the most surprising developments making the rounds right now is the idea that James Gunn and his team might actually be working on a solo Bane project. But it isn't just about Bane himself. Word is, this project could actually be a team-up movie pairing him with another major villain, Deathstroke. That's something we haven't really seen before on the big screen, so it instantly raises curiosity. Before diving too deep into the project, though, it makes sense to back up a little for those who may not know much about Bane as a character. Bane is one of Batman's most iconic villains, and he has a reputation that stretches far beyond Gotham. He was created in the early 90s by Chuck Dixon, Doug Moench, and Graham Nolan, making his first appearance in Batman Vengeance of Bane #1 back in January 1993. What makes him stand out from the rest of Batman's rogues is that he isn't just a brute force, even though his physical power is legendary. He also has incredible intelligence and strategy. Bane's backstory is grim, because he was actually born and raised inside Peña Duro prison on the island of Santa Prisca. His father, King Snake, had been a revolutionary, and because of that, Bane ended up serving a life sentence from birth. While locked up, he was used as a test subject for the super steroid known as Venom. That's what gave him his monstrous strength. After escaping prison, Bane made his way to Gotham, and in one of the most legendary storylines in Batman history, he actually managed to defeat Batman, famously breaking his back in the storyline known as Breaking the Bat. That cemented him as one of the few villains who could challenge Batman both physically and mentally, making him a permanent part of Batman's rogues gallery. Of course, Bane has popped up in various adaptations over the years. On film, Robert Swenson played him in Batman and Robin in 1997, and Tom Hardy gave an unforgettable take on him in The Dark Knight Rises in 2012. On TV, Shane West played him in Gotham, and in animation and video games, he's been voiced by actors like Henry Silva, Hector Elizondo, Danny Trejo, and Fred Tatasciore. He's consistently ranked as one of the top comic book villains of all time, even landing at number 34 on IGN's list of the greatest villains ever. So it's not surprising that DC wants to keep him in the spotlight. Now, the interesting twist is that it isn't just Bane being developed for the new DCU. Reports suggest a team-up movie featuring both Bane and Deathstroke is in the works. Even though the old DCEU has been retired, Warner Brothers is looking ahead with a fresh slate under James Gunn and Peter Safran's leadership. The official list of confirmed projects is still pretty small, with Superman set to kick things off in 2025, along with a few shows and some Elseworlds projects. But beyond the superheroes, the new DCU also plans to give villains their chance to shine. James Gunn recently teased that Deathstroke would be entering the DCU, and now, the news that he could be starring in a project alongside Bane makes it even more intriguing. On September 27th, The Hollywood Reporter confirmed that this Bane and Deathstroke movie is officially in early development. At this stage, details are scarce, and no one knows exactly how or why the two characters will come together. Still, it's an exciting development because it signals that DC is open to trying new combinations, instead of just recycling the same hero versus villain formula. What makes this especially fun is that Deadpool, a Marvel character, was famously inspired by Deathstroke. After the huge success of Deadpool and Wolverine, you can see why DC might want to play around with the idea of pairing two fan-favorite anti-heroes or villains together. It's not the same exact tone, but the parallels are hard to ignore. Of course, James Gunn has been very clear about one thing: in the DCU, no project moves forward unless the script is fully approved. That means this Bane and Deathstroke idea is still very much in the earliest stages, with the story just being laid out. If the script doesn't hit the mark, the project could easily be shelved. Luckily, there's already a writer attached, which gives the film a fighting chance of becoming reality. Matthew Orton, the screenwriter who worked on Captain America: Brave New World, has been tapped to handle the script. He's not a household name just yet, but he's been building an impressive resume. He wrote for Marvel's Moon Knight series and developed the show Devil's Peak, and his work often has political undercurrents. That could be a good fit for characters like Bane and Deathstroke, since both have backgrounds that can be layered with military, political, and criminal intrigue. If done right, this script could give the DCU a villain-focused story with real substance. Now, the question is, where exactly would this project fit into DC's multiverse of storytelling? Warner Brothers currently has a few different lanes running. There's James Gunn's new DCU, Matt Reeves' The Batman universe, and separate Elseworlds projects like the Joaquin Phoenix Joker films. Right now, it isn't confirmed which lane the Bane and Deathstroke movie will take, but many believe it makes the most sense to be part of the main DCU. Some fans even speculate it could secretly be setting up a larger Secret Six storyline down the road, which would be another way of leaning into villains as leading characters. Story-wise, there are a bunch of directions this could go. Maybe the movie starts with Bane and Deathstroke as enemies, each working toward their own mission, before realizing they need to team up against a bigger threat. Or maybe they're chasing the same goal from different angles, which forces them into an uneasy alliance. Because both characters are strategic, intelligent, and not just about brute force, their dynamic could end up being both tense and fascinating. It also depends on the tone of the DCU, because if the movie leans into the darker and grittier side, it could feel very different from something like The Suicide Squad, which had more humor mixed in. James Gunn himself has fueled some of the hype. On social media, a fan once asked him to confirm if Deathstroke would appear in the DCU by replying with a winking emoji. Gunn actually did it, which was basically his way of confirming without giving away details. That small tease now looks like it's turning into something much bigger than just a cameo. If Deathstroke is leading a movie alongside Bane, that means Gunn is delivering on his earlier hints while also setting up villains as important players in the DCU's next phase. As for casting, both Bane and Deathstroke have been brought to life in live action before. Tom Hardy's Bane in The Dark Knight Rises is still considered one of the most powerful portrayals, while Joe Manganiello suited up as Deathstroke briefly in a Justice League post-credit scene. Manu Bennett also made a strong impression as Deathstroke on Arrow. But with the DCU starting fresh, it's very likely these characters will be recast. That gives the studio the chance to find actors who can bring the right chemistry for this team-up movie. Fans have already started throwing around casting ideas. Some people have suggested Stephen Lang for Deathstroke, since he's long been a fan favorite choice. Others lean toward younger names like Nikolai Coster-Waldau, Andrew Lincoln, or Timothy Olyphant, who could bring both toughness and charisma. For Bane, Dave Bautista once expressed interest, but he has recently leaned away from physically demanding roles. So the role could go to someone else entirely, maybe an actor who can capture both the brains and the brawn that define Bane. It's also worth remembering that Deathstroke almost had his own solo movie in the DCEU. Director Gareth Evans had even worked on a script, with Joe Manganiello lined up to star, but that project ended up being scrapped when the old cinematic universe was reset. Now, with this new Bane and Deathstroke film in the works, the character may finally get his due on the big screen. At the end of the day, the idea of pairing Bane and Deathstroke feels bold because it's not the typical hero-centered story audiences expect from comic book movies. It shows that DC is willing to experiment with how it builds its universe, giving villains more depth and even the spotlight. Although the project is still in the early stages and might change direction, the potential is huge. If the script lands and the casting clicks, this could be one of the most exciting additions to James Gunn's new DC slate. Well, that's it for today. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel, because we'll be covering more updates on this soon and other exciting upcoming movies and series. We'll see you next time.